Congresswoman Foxx, I just want to take the opportunity to welcome you to our conversation today as we talk about some issues that are important to agriculture across the country, and especially to farmers here in Yadkin County. I want to thank you for sitting down and having this dialogue with us. Being that you won't be able to join us for our legislative dinner, it's always a pleasure to sit down and be able to have these conversations with you about issues that are important to your constituents and farmers here in Yadkin County.
Oh, Justin, it's no problem at all. I'm really sorry I can't be with you all at your meeting. You know, I get to every meeting of Farm Bureau that I possibly can. So thanks for inviting me, and thanks to you for making the effort to do that. It absolutely does make a difference for constituents to come here. And, you know, my policy is, Justin, if a constituent is willing to make the effort and take the time to come to Washington, I'm going to meet with you. I also will meet with people in the district. I mean, many people cannot afford to come here, cannot give the time up to come here. It's a hassle, and I realize that. So in addition to my being more than willing to meet with people here in Washington, then I'm happy to meet with people in the district also. In fact, I hold office hours in the district, and I think, as you know, I come to the Farm Bureau meetings. I was at Brent Hunter's birthday party the other night. I'll be at the Fall Festival in Yadkin County. So I do my best to be as accessible as possible. I take phone calls, I read my mail. So it's really important for constituents and for those of you with Farm Bureau to let me know what legislation we have passed is impacting you, how what legislation we are looking to pass will impact you. The wisdom of the world is with you, not with us. We are here to help make things better for the constituents we represent. And the only way we can know how to make things better or to fix things that have been done wrongly in the past is for you to tell us. So for some of us who are engaged in farming or engaged in other activities, we can see sometimes directly the impact of the laws, but it's so important for you to let us know. I do believe that almost every member of Congress, certainly every member who has farmers in his or her district, understands that the current immigration system is broken, that it is not working. H-2A is not working as well as it should. We know you need year-round help. I know, as someone who was in the nursery and landscaping business and had trouble hiring people to work primarily in the summer. I mean, we needed people from April through November and part of December to help us when we were raising Christmas trees and raising other plants in the field. I know how important this is, and I know how difficult it is to get people who are born and raised in the United States to work. So we need people, we need immigrants to come in. We need the system to be simple. We need you to be able to find people who are willing to work, who would come year after year, because I'm extraordinarily familiar with how difficult it is to teach people how you want things done, and for them to be allowed to come back year after year so that you don't have to start at scratch every time. So I have a lot of confidence in Chairman Goodlatte. He has a lot of farmers in his district. Other members are talking with him. So we want a system that works for you, not that works for the federal government necessarily, because we're only here to facilitate what you need. So I haven't talked to the chairman recently about the legislation. I know there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. So I will be working with him, representing to him what you have told me, what the farmers have told me, what other Farm Bureau people have told me about how you would like that legislation written, how you would like it enforced. So we'll be doing our very dead level best to come up with the best legislation we can to meet your needs. Well, I did vote for the bill that came to the floor. What killed that bill was there was a solution to the DACA issue in it, but it didn't go as far as liberals wanted to go with it. It made it possible for DACA students or DACA people to be able to renew their visas for 3 years at a time and stay in the country legally and work, go to school. However, it did not lead to a path for citizenship, and that is what kept liberals from voting for it. And it's unfortunate because I think it is the solution that is ultimately going to be decided. I believe that. I think the majority of the American people agree with that piece of legislation. They realize that there are many DACA enrollees who came here at a very young age and are not responsible for having been brought here and brought up here, who want to continue to stay in the United States. But either they or their parents broke the law, and if we allow them to become citizens, then that is reinforcing behavior that we don't want to encourage in this country. You know, I have heard, and I don't know exactly where it comes from, that if we simply opened our borders, 300 to 400 million people will come to this country immediately. Our population is about 320 million now. We can't absorb that number of people, but we do want to we want to try to ensure to the place we possibly can that the people who come here come legally and have a good purpose in being here. And by the way, we haven't even broached the issue of what to do about the 40% of the people who are here illegally who simply have overstayed their visa. They've actually committed a felony. The other people have committed a misdemeanor. And so we need to sort those things out too. So it's a very complicated situation. We think we had a good solution in the bill that was defeated on the floor, but there are many people who didn't see it that way. I believe the conference committee, we passed a bill a few minutes ago to instruct conferees. I'm not sure if the conferees have all been named yet or not, but once those conferees are named, now that we have the instructions out of the House, if the Senate passes a similar bill, passes our bill, then those people will begin to go to work. The current farm bill expires in September, as you know, I'm sure your members know. I think there'll be a good faith effort to do it, but I have also heard that many members of the House of Representatives do not want to support a farm bill that does not have work requirements for people who are on food stamps and on welfare. This is a very important issue to people in the House. My guess it's a very important issue to your members because, as you say, as we all know, they are struggling very hard to find people to work. And we believe that there are a lot of able-bodied people out there who are on welfare who could be working either full-time or part-time. There's no way of knowing how many of them might be able to work in farming, but certainly welfare costs keep going up. Medicaid is breaking the state budget as well as the federal budget, and anything that we can do to promote people working, we want to see happen. But you know, I had a Bible study this morning, and it was all focused on the word hope and how many times the word hope shows up in the Bible. We didn't even go over all of them, but it is an issue where most of us feel we have to have hope that we can get things done, and we move into those things like a conference committee with a positive attitude that we can achieve what needs to be achieved for the American people. Well, I wouldn't exactly elevate it to the level of war yet. I think we've got some skirmishes going on out there. I wouldn't call it a war. But, you know, we do have unfair trade practices going on overseas. I agree with the president that China has the worst trade practices, but you know, the president made a deal or offered a deal to the European Union to let's just get rid of all trade barriers. Let's just have open and free and fair trade. But they changed the subject on him because they are protecting certain people, many of them their own farmers. And they don't want to have free and fair trade. So, you know, this is not my area of expertise. I certainly pay a lot of attention to it because of the potential impact that it has on people all over my district. I talked with textile people yesterday who are concerned with where we're going in this direction. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed again. I'm very hopeful that this is going to level out and that people are going to begin to see that this tit for tat that's going on right now gets nobody anywhere. We just really need to have some serious negotiations. I think the president's gamble here is to bring people to the table, to say, okay, you know, this tit for tat isn't working, so we must look for a way to come up with the right kind of policy. Well, I think, Justin, it would be negligent on my part not to talk about some positive things. Last year, we passed the largest tax cut bill that had been passed ever. It was called the Tax Cut and Jobs Bill. And it's been great for businesses and families, but you seldom hear it talked about because, again, the media gets obsessed with things that I think sometimes are just totally irrelevant to the average American out there, working hard, going to church, you know, participating in scouts, in the volunteer fire department, and yet we don't talk about the positive things. And as Americans, we are generally, basically positive people who look for the good. So I want to say a few things about the tax cut bill and how it's been good for businesses and families. 90% of Americans have seen bigger paychecks as a result of the tax cut bill. You know, our colleagues on the other side of the aisle said, oh, this was crumbs, this was no good, it was Armageddon, only bad things were going to happen. Well, so far as I know, only good things have happened from it. 1.3 million jobs have been created. Our unemployment rate hasn't been this low. It's 3.8%. We doubled the child tax credit. We've done regulatory reform last year. I may have mentioned to you guys that we passed 14 Congressional Regulatory Act bills, and 5 of them came out of my committee, the Education and Workforce Committee, and then one I got passed in another committee. But regulatory reform has saved over $4.1 billion to people in this country. You know, billion means a lot of money. And so those are positive things that are happening. Everywhere I go in the district, people tell me things are getting better. They have a better attitude. It's sort of like Ronald Reagan, Morning in America again. People are positive. We're a very patriotic area. We've done a lot for our military. In the NDAA and in the appropriations bill, we gave a 2.4% pay raise to the troops, the largest pay raise, I think, in 10 years. We've brought on 20,000 new troops. We have increased our funding for the military, $1.7 billion, the largest in 15 years. So we're doing a lot that's positive in the country, reducing rules and regulations. Anybody can look for this information on something called better.gop. The last thing I'll mention is 2 years ago we adopted something called A Better Way, which was a plan that if the American people gave us unified government, we made promises. One was the tax cut bill, one was regulatory reform, several other areas. One was welfare reform, which we hope we're about to get. So we've done that. We believe people are better off now as a result of all this legislation. And that's, again, what I hear from people. So I think as you have this celebration that most Americans feel the way I do. We're the luckiest people in the world. We live in the greatest country in the world. And it's up to us to do everything we can, not only to keep it a great country, to make it even better for the people who live here. So I thank you again for the opportunity to do this, and I hope my words have been helpful tonight. God bless you all.